Hello and welcome to Hug and Snug, where today I'm joined by Gareth Dinnage, who is the Managing Director of Seacourt, and I'm very happy to say that Seacourt are our official highly sustainable print partners. Gareth, welcome to
Thank you.
Hug and Snug. I've got some props in the way, but we have to start with a hug. That's all right.
Absolutely.
Oh, no, props everywhere. Well, look, this makes my point really nicely. We're here today to talk about the price of printing. And I mean that in the sense of what is the environmental cost of printing. Now, we print stuff all of the time. So we've got, business cards here, little mini brochures, we've got annual reports, brochures. We've got two rather nice brochures that you actually printed for us over there. So I thought I'd let you focus on those ones and get in a small sales pitch whilst we're here. So let's talk a little bit about, first of all, to set the scene, what do we mean by sustainable printing? What are the kind of elements involved when we say that something has been printed sustainably? And you can feel free to refer to those examples.
Well, sustainable printing, it's a big sort of mismatch really of what people consider it to be, because there's a wide spectrum. People could feel that if they use FSC paper, for instance, that's sustainable printing. Where in actual fact, that's a long way short of what we're actually saying, both you and I are actually saying is sustainable printing. And what our take on sustainable printing is basically producing printed material which has a near zero environmental footprint throughout the journey, including the paper journey. So if you use, let's start with the paper for instance, if you use 100% recycled paper, okay, you're diverting waste from landfill. That is a key factor. We have more forestry in Europe than we did in 1950. I think it's about 3 times more than we did. It's a crop and it's there to be used. It absorbs CO2, especially the younger trees and saplings. So using paper is not an issue. What is an issue is diverting waste from landfill. Using recycled paper does that. In terms of the printing process, what makes absolute sustainable printing is we choose to print using waterless printing, which is waterless offset, prints without the use of a huge amount of water, consuming vast amounts of VOCs, and so we print without the need of these resources.
So that's both in terms of the amount of fresh water that you would use, and also that you're not flushing a load of nasty stuff back out.
Absolutely. We've saved 7.5 million litres of water since we've switched from conventional dirty lithography to waterless offset. We also reduced our volatile organic compounds by 98.5%. This is the nasty airborne VOCs that are harmful for our respiratory systems. So there's a massive environmental saving by saying 100% recycled paper, but more importantly the processes using waterless offset. Also, how are you powered? Where's the energy coming from? We use 100% renewable energy because we couldn't justify it being powered by a coal-fired power station. We also are the first printing company in the world to be zero waste to landfill. So everything that comes into our factory will either leave as finished product or will leave in one of our 16 recycling streams.
Okay, so you've sorted the kind of raw materials, the energy that you're using, your processes, your waste.
Yep.
Sounds very impressive. But from a client perspective, am I making a compromise in terms of, the reason I'm going to print something is because I want to create something that represents my company in the best possible light, that looks very impressive. It's an extension of how I present myself to the marketplace. Am I making compromises? If you're using recycled paper, for example, are there compromises involved in the quality of the materials that are able to be produced?
Absolutely not. First and foremost, we're a commercial operation. We're a commercial business. If the products we were producing were not better than the norm, then we simply wouldn't be in business. Everything we produce, the processes we have, actually produce a higher quality process than conventional offset lithography, because we're having no emulsification of inks. In terms of the paper quality, there is very little difference between recycled and non-recycled in terms of look and feel. So as against compromising, it's quite the reverse.
Okay, so let's take the flip side of that. Am I therefore paying a nice hefty extra chunk to make sure that you can afford to do all those nice sustainability measures that you talked about there?
No, it's comparable with market prices. Again, if it wasn't comparable, then people aren't going to be working with us, and we're not going to be in business.
And that's not a sustainable business.
Absolutely. No, there is no negative to what we're doing or our approach. We simply see that it makes absolute perfect sense in all terms, both for the environment, both for business, both for quality. If you have a process which is so far removed, so far better than the norm, why wouldn't you do it?
Okay, well, I find that fairly compelling. But if you look at there obviously are still some resources involved. Do you have a sense of when is the right time to make the decision to print? Like, are there some things that that we're currently printing on a regular basis that maybe we don't need to print? I mean, do you think there's a certain amount of waste still involved in terms of, there's two sides to look at it. One, do we overprint? Do we print when we don't need to? Or two, have we sort of, in a drive to be more sustainable, stop printing things when perhaps it still is the right choice to print things?
Both of those things are true. We are printing less. The print quantities have dropped because of digital technology and digital communications, enabling us to be far more effective and selective with how we communicate. But whatever you do, it has to be the right channel. It has to be fit for purpose. And what's happened over recent years, everyone's saying, no, I'm not going to print anymore. Printing's bad. Printing's bad for the environment. No, it's not. We're using sustainable materials with a near zero environmental footprint. If you look at how your digital communications are sent, as long as it fits, that has to be the correct channel. But digital communications are transient, they suffer from white noise, and anyone who wants to make an investment or a lasting impression wants something to touch and feel and to be reassured about. Now, if that's the case for the communication and it has to be remembered and absorbed, then print has to be the way.
And do you see a long-term future for printing continue? Because obviously we've got a vast amount of materials, all of these books behind me are now available somewhere digitally. I could, theoretically replace all these materials with digital versions of them. I personally don't think that's that they have the same impact. But
absolutely, but what's going to happen and what is happening is that we're all working smarter. The printing technology is enabling us to really get down to micro levels in terms of print runs, in terms of personalisation. What will happen, instead of printing hundreds of thousands of something which is not generic, has no interest to anyone, is not specific, we can get down to the nth degree and produce personalised communications which really do the job, which is what they're designed for communicating an effective message. And so everything's going to be much more segmented, and the technology that is coming on board will enable us to do so. And not only segmentation, but also in terms of the rapid delivery, in terms of the speed that we can get message to market. It will never be as quickly as hitting a button on an email. But what it will enable us to do is and marketing teams to be far more proactive in terms of, okay, we can run campaigns in an instant. So the whole dynamics of how we use the printed word will evolve, is already evolving, and it's very exciting. Yeah,
and where do you see that, if we, both in terms of sustainability but also in terms of the kind of technology that's available, where do you see printing, say, in 5-10 years time? Because it's already, like you say, it's already evolving very quickly. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who aren't even aware that things like waterless printing technology exists. We've had 3D printing just seems to have kind of exploded over even the course of the kind of last year. It's rapidly developing. So do you have a sense of maybe where printing technology is going in the years to come?
Well, it is getting down to one-to-one communication. That has to be the way. There's all sorts of inkjet technologies. There's UV technologies that are coming on board. It's incredible what is actually happening. But in terms of going back to the digital versus the printed word, what the problem we have where people consider printing is that they don't actually fully consider the life cycle of a digital communication. They don't consider the energy consumption of you sat there reading a 20-page PDF on your computer or doing a Google search to pull up the resource from the computer. There's a huge amount of data centers, the size of Luton, are now springing up all over the world. They're there purely to power our need, for our digital need. And also, I think Google has to have a double capacity running all the time. So when we're talking about the environmental impact of the printed word against the digital email, let's actually consider
the life cycle,
the entire life cycle, because that gets lost.
Yeah. So I think we agreed that printing has a future, has a place, and that actually that we can do that with sustainability at its heart. How do we make sure we hold on to that? Final thought. How do we make sure, with all the advances that are happening, that sustainability still stays at the heart?
We need to specify it. We need to specify. People need to be aware. Okay, how can I improve my supply chain? How can I make a positive difference? And you simply do that by challenging your incumbent supplier. What are you doing? How are you printing? Are you printing using dirty lithography, or are you printing without the use of water, without the use of VOCs, without putting anything into landfill, using 100% renewable energy, being carbon neutral? Challenge your printer, find out, and if you don't get the right answers, then find someone who can help.
Okay, well, we'll open that challenge out to you, viewers. Go and challenge your printers and see if you're happy with how your materials are being printed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.